Hello again, I'm Alister Benn and you're watching Expressive Photography. Thank you very much for tuning in as always. Now, today I'm going to talk about why we compose, not how, and why we should ever listen to anybody else's opinion about how to compose something is a bit of a mystery to me. So let's dive straight into why we compose. Before we start out with that today, I do have a couple of announcements. Over the last few weeks, you'll notice that my voice has been deteriorating and it's becoming a bit of a problem for me. So I've decided to take a few weeks off of YouTube. So this will be the last Sunday video for probably about 3 weeks. I think the next one might be about the 9th of August. So I would like to ask you to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button so that you will be updated whenever I post something new. They're going to be less frequent from now on. I can't sustain this level of output. So we're going to be doing a Sunday video twice a week and the Vision and Light interviews on a Wednesday. So that will be a Wednesday video and then a Sunday video, a Wednesday video and a Sunday video. And that's the way it's just going to roll from now on. If we're out in the field and we do something amazing and we decide to post an extra video, we will do. But the pressure to keep producing videos on a weekly basis is not only affecting my ability to speak, but it's also affecting my creativity and my own ability to put time into the new books and other projects that I have to work to. So apologies for that. You can hit the join button and join the membership. And for the Expressive Photographers level, I'm still going to be producing weekly videos. So if you want continued content coming from me, hit that join button and we can move forward. And I will still keep providing valuable content for the members there. Finally, before we get into today's topic, I would like to urge you to invest £16 in my Luminosity and Contrast ebook. Everything that I am talking about historically and from here on in is focused on the model of luminosity and contrast. The way we see the world is luminosity and contrast. And that book is the absolute distillation of my contemporary thought on that subject. And it will change the way, not only how you see the world, but how you photograph the world and how you express your photography. That, in conjunction with the black and white processing videos, is a complete foundation course on which everything else that I will be producing is going to be building. So if you want to get on that program and become a better and more expressive photographer, then please consider doing that. Right, I appreciate that as a long introduction for a video. So today, what is it all about? Well, first and foremost, every piece of learning material I've ever read or seen on YouTube is about how to compose. It's about rules, it's about guidelines, it's about doing this, it's about doing that, it's about somebody else's impression and idea of the aesthetic, and they're basically saying, do it this way because it will make you a better photographer. Now, what I want to do is I want to break this down and I want you to ask questions of yourself, which is, if you're going to say something about your view of the world, do you want to use your own words or do you want to use somebody else's words? Do you want told what to say or do you want to feel it yourself and decide how to express it? That is the difference between how to compose videos and why to compose videos. Let's just dive into Adobe Lightroom here and you'll see I've just made a very quick selection of 8 images from the north coast of Spain, somewhere I know intimately. I've spent years there and even lived there for a year. And if we dive right in to this first photograph, why did I compose this? I composed it because I engaged with the world. I saw something that just filled me with wonder. And in this particular case, there are 2 or 3 main reasons why I did that. The first is it's very atmospheric. The second is it's very geometric. So there's lots of angles, there's lots of interesting shapes, and there's a lot of atmosphere, all that billowing fog coming in off the ocean. The third thing is it's luminous. There's light shining through it. There is also contrast. So we have atmosphere, geometry, luminosity, contrast, and there's one more. There's color. Because of the evening light, the way the light was just billowing around the thing and interacting with all of those different elements. So we have 5 different triggers, which Adam is going to remind you all about now. Those 5 triggers are always the reasons why we point our cameras at anything. And if you're going to point your camera at something, it's telling you why, okay? If you don't see that this is broken down to luminosity, contrast, atmosphere, color, and geometry, then I want you to try and think about what else is it. Yeah, if you don't want to use my words, use your own words. If we look at the next image, this is a wider scene. So this was taken at 14 millimeters, another beach on the north coast of Spain, and I wanted to get this depth. I wanted to get an impression of the place. And in doing so, when you shoot wide, you have to hope that everything is going to rationalize itself. So why I pointed my camera at this was to try and build an impression of a place. And what composition does is it distills the content down from that big 120, 130 degree field of view that we have, or about 160 degree field of view. And we want to break it down somewhat. Now I've cropped this into a 4x5, so it's already compressing the scene slightly from a full frame. But what happens if you want to distill it even further? Well, you zoom in. So all of a sudden, I've gone straight to the essence of this scene. I've taken out all of that peripheral information, and this becomes totally isolated in space. You can hear my voice is going already. So using zoom lenses is an excellent way to distill a landscape down into its absolute parts. If we think about those 5 words again, we have color, that blue hour, well, it was actually nighttime, so we've got this very night-like feel to this image. So we've got color. We have contrast. We've got bright areas and dark areas. We have luminosity, the way the surf, the pounding surf, because it was hugely energetic, the way that's all moving around is creating luminosity. So we have color, contrast, luminosity. We definitely have geometry because of all the angles of those pointy sea stacks, and we have atmosphere. Long exposures help to create ethereal atmospheres. So again, we have those 5 trigger words working to distill the landscape down into something really straightforward. Why do we compose? We compose to isolate. We compose to distill thought. We compose to remove distractions, to simplify. These are all good reasons of why we compose. This is another very zoomed in photograph. The big scene of here, it's a big beach, and the sea stack is out into the ocean somewhat. And it's really a case of using that zoom lens to get rid of everything else. The luminosity of the waves, the contrast between the surf and the sea stacks, the atmosphere created by all that energy, the geometry of the forms of the waves, and of course the pinnacles. We've taken away color, so we've lost one of our 5 elements, but the other 4 are all working and they're all building on this one message. This is something completely different. This is in a museum in Madrid. And I know why I pointed my camera at this. The man-made structures, the beautiful metal staircase with the wooden banisters, creates this play of light, this sort of, it's almost random, but it's super ordered. As soon as the hand of man is involved in anything, there's going to be some order, even if it's apparently chaotic. And what they're using here, or what the architect did here, was he allowed the surfaces of the metal to randomize the way the light was going to hit this. But again, we have luminosity, we have contrast, we have geometry. The atmosphere is subtle, but it's definitely there. And the color, obviously, it's monochromatic apart from the beautiful wood banisters there. I know why I photographed this, and I know why I composed it this way. Square crops obviously create a certain degree of order. We've discussed this in aspect ratios in the past. Now, something like this, I point my camera at all sorts of random things. Why did I compose this? Well, for me, this little face up here, it's kind of weird. And this is the raw file, so it looks a little bit low contrast. But if I just add a little bit of contrast there, I can do a little bit of this, and I'm going to change the white balance slightly to bring in some more of that blue. The rock is really quite blue. Now, I can see how I composed this, and I understand why I composed it this way. If we don't have to explain everything we do. We can just be fascinated. How I compose is basically being fascinated by something and pointing my camera at it. The next photograph is a great example. This is, again, just rock strata in northern Spain. And these layers, or these bands of rock, each one of them is time. I mean, there's just time personified. This is actually flipped into a horizontal from a vertical composition. And I'd done it this way to make it a little bit more abstract, but also to look at those layers of time and as a progression from one thing into another thing. How we compose is a function of how we engage with the world. It has to look right to us, and it has to feel right to us, not you. I'm not going to ask you how to compose my photographs because I'm going to get 10,000 different opinions. It has to be me, and for it to be me, it has to be honest, and it has to have integrity, and it has to be true to my own perception. There's no point in asking other people how to compose. Finally, this is one last photograph from the north coast of Spain. I want to reiterate the 5 words. Of course, one of them is missing, which is, that's right, color. We've taken this into black and white, but the other 4 are there in abundance. We have atmosphere. Again, I'm using a long exposure to abstract that foreground surface. And you can see there's some color and there's some texture in the sky through the movements of the clouds. So there's atmosphere, there's most definitely luminosity, there's most definitely contrast, and there's most definitely geometry or graphical elements to this. Every time we look at the world under those terms, and this is what I do in the Luminosity and Contrast ebook, and again in the videos, is just hammer home, if you can look at the world not as things, but as geometry, luminosity, contrast, atmosphere, and color, your perspective with the landscape changes, and you're no longer out there looking for photographs. You're out there experiencing things, engaging with things, feeling things, finding yourself in the landscape. Anthropomorphism, putting yourself into the inanimate objects so that they become an expression of you. I could go on about this for a long, long time, but for now, I want to settle today's video, because this will be the last time I'm going to be speaking to you as a large group for quite a few weeks. If I have one purpose with this channel, it's to not make everyone into sheep following one shepherd. I definitely am not here to say, do it my way. But what I'm trying to encourage people to do is to do it your way, without the fear that some idiot out there on the internet is going to call you out for your decisions just because they've been photographing for 30 years. Time doing it doesn't mean you're an expert. You can do it wrong for 30 years and just be so self-obsessed that you think it's the only way to do things. My voice is just going to die. Thank you very much for tuning in always. Thank you very much for all the support. thank you very much for the incredible comments that I get every single time I post new content. I feel like we're in this together and we're trying to move forward to be expressive, unique, individual, challenging the status quo, asking questions of ourselves and of what society tells us is the right thing to do. Thank you. I will see you in a few weeks' time. If you click the membership button, of course, I'll be talking to you again very shortly. So thank you very much for tuning in, everyone, and enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you in August. Bye for now.